If you've been following Content Classroom for a while now, you'll know I started it off about a year and a half ago as a place to share simple, practical tips for getting your video content out there, repurposing it, and everything from tools to workflows to technology. And it's been great. I've had some amazing feedback from everyone. And thank you very much for those of you that have reached out. It's been a pleasure reading your emails and your messages. Don't panic. We're not going to stop Content Classroom. It's going to get better. It's going to evolve, because all of the above that I've described is not going to be the full picture anymore. And quite honestly, I needed some time to reignite my passion for this project, because as a creator, it's all well and good putting value out there. You've got to really enjoy what it is that you're doing. And sometimes that just needs a bit of refinement. And this is a lesson for you as well as it is for me. The more I've worked with creators, founders, podcast hosts, experts, and people just like you, the more I've realized that knowing how to hit record isn't always the real problem. The real problem is getting seen, staying seen, and doing it in a way that just doesn't burn you out. A lot of people still haven't realized the full power of repurposing, why it's important, and getting their head around what's possible and how it can be achieved. So, as of today, Content Classroom evolves. We're going to pivot. I don't know how many more buzzwords I could fit in. From now on, Content Classroom is not just going to be about tips. It's going to be about sharing my journey. And probably you're going to see your own journey reflected in some of that. I'm going to try and bring it to life by sharing some of the tough stuff, or the stuff that I've not really thought about sharing so far on LinkedIn even. I've got some real ideas that I want to share with everyone. And that's not going to be every week, right? So, it's going to be mixed up with the same sort of content that you've seen previously, the advice, the support, the new technology, the new tips and tricks. But I'll also be sharing what I've learned from building Javelin content, as a repurposing business that helps people wring their content dry. And, our shift into working with podcasts much more than we ever have in the past. I'm going to share the wins, the mess, the systems that make it scalable, and all of the stuff that I wish someone had told me earlier, or I could rewind time and just tap myself on the shoulder and let myself know. So every week, you're still going to get one of these videos, short video like this, and you're going to get the newsletter that goes into things in a bit more depth and gives you something you can take away and read. And I'm conscious as well that a lot of my audience accidentally, or maybe kind of on purpose, are neurodiverse just like me. So I think it's important to have both, okay? Not everybody consumes their content in the same way. So you're always going to get it in both places. You're always going to get a video. You're always going to get the blog. And this week, I'm going to kick off with something I don't think that I've ever said out loud properly. And that was the moment where it all clicked, where I realized that most people, like you, like me, are sat on a gold mine of content and they just don't even know it. Or maybe they know it, but they have no idea what's possible with it. How much of a gold mine, what that gold mine's worth. So if you're tired of starting from scratch all the time, and if you know you've got value to share, but it feels like hard work every single week, stick around for this series. Give us a subscribe, give us a follow. We are literally just getting started. Today I'm starting with the moment it hit me, how much power is in repurposed content. So 2020, the March, I just left my corporate retail career and I moved into an AI consultancy in Manchester. And the CEO was a guy who's very entrepreneurial and had run a social media company previously. Now, I think the challenge that he'd come up against was they were ahead of the time. So if they'd been running now, they'd be doing what I'm doing. And that's something that sparked the idea for me. So early on, I was talking to him about how it's super hard to break through all the noise. People getting cold calls, people getting cold DMs, cold emails, like everything's just awful, everything's automated. And as a result, everybody's really cynical of connecting with real people. And what we discussed was his idea around the long form content that most people produce really is just it's the end point. It's not the whole thing, right? It's the end point. It's where you want to get people to. But to get people there, you need more. You need consistency. And one of the things that had attracted me to work for him was that every time I opened my LinkedIn feed, he was there posting. He was posting comedy stuff at the time, right? Like memes and GIFs and completely unrelated to what he was doing, but I knew of him because he was consistent. And so eventually I've gone to work for him. So there's real power there in that thought that if he hadn't been doing that, I'd have been a lot more suspicious and cynical of him. And that clicked for me. And I was like, I'm pretty junior, right? Like in that point in time, right? I'm don't really see myself as anyone. We could talk imposter syndrome later on, right? But I'm thinking if that worked for me, it's going to work for other people. And it took us a while, but after about 1.5 years, 2 years, we finally spun up a podcast. We got a podcast going, had a live stream going. And I remember spending 20 hours a week trying to create clips badly, really, really hating what I was doing, but kind of sticking with it because there's a vision there. There's a vision. And based on my relationship with him, I knew there was something to it. I just couldn't really figure out what the end result would look like. This was before ChatGPT really kicked off properly, before all the AI tools kicked off properly. Trying to do everything by hand. And then eventually I found 2 or 3 tools that seemed to do really interesting things. And I remember the moment, it was an evening, I was working on some video content. I was determined to turn this into something. I had a million things to do, right? Just like you. I had a sales pipeline I had leads to generate, I had lists of leads to create, email campaigns, conversations to have with people, demos, all of these things. As the only salesperson in the business, couldn't afford to spend 20 hours a week on editing video. And I finally put this technology together, these 3 apps. And I remember seeing some of the outputs come out of it, and I realized I could export in a different way. And it started generating all of these different clips. And I looked at them and I was like, if I can put these things here and I can do that there, and I can turn this 30 minutes into 20 clips, that's great, because now all of a sudden I've cut my time down to like 2 hours a week of editing. But like my brain goes one step further. I'm like, that's in landscape format. I can do that in square format and portrait format. I just need to copy the composition, the project that I've been working on, change the orientation, make it centralized on the camera. And all of a sudden I've got it in square and portrait format in these 15 or 20 clips. And so we did it. And this is early days. So like it didn't look amazing, but it was a starting point. I remember seeing the exports fill in the folders. And then I started pumping them out on our LinkedIn accounts and just kind of handwriting a copy post to go with each one as I was putting them out. And all of a sudden I've gone from posting twice a week from each account and really struggling with it to posting every single day, 5 days a week for 4 accounts plus the company account. And I remember the meeting with our senior leadership team the week afterwards, and we're like, Paul, where's all this content? Like, how have you managed to do all of this? Like, we're not having to create any of this, but was that one podcast? I'm like, yeah, this is the way things are going to go going forward. I've got other ideas. We can create other things. We can create quotes images, and we can do all these, create thumbnails. There's got to be ways of doing all this stuff automatedly, kind of, but with a human over the top so that people see the real value in it. It feels finished and feels right, not just pumped out. And I remember the feeling in the room that time, because we were a small business and this is a really powerful marketing tool for us then. And just the real positivity from everyone in the business. I can see smiles on everyone's faces. This is going to work. This is how we get attention. This is how we create awareness. This is stage 1 of us breaking out into the world. And that was the moment for me that I just thought, one day down the line, this is what I want to do. This is that look on everyone's face when they introduced this. The realization of the raw power that I've now created for them to be able to go, today, instead of having to think of a post, I'm just going to dip into Paul's library, pull out a video clip, post it. I'm going to write something that comes with it that gives people cause to think about what it is that the video that he's just posted. That is the raw power of repurposing. Can't stress enough how much value you're all sat on, just waiting for that to be repurposed. And there are ways and means of doing it. If you look back through Content Classroom, you'll see we give it all away, right? Because I'm a big believer that if you can do it yourself, you should be. But that for me was the moment that I realized that at some point I'd want to create Javelin content, because that smile, that energy on people's faces when they realized that they'd be able to do so much more with so little and so little of their time was really, really powerful, because it's a game-changing way of doing things for them. And you could see that it freed them up to have so much more concentration and focus on other things. They could lead me to it even. I could get on with it. So if you've got longer form video content already pre-recorded, or you're planning to do some, or you're on the fence about doing some, That's the raw power that you get out the back of it. You can be consistently posting, and think of that initial introduction I had with the guy that I ended up working for. I already knew him. I already knew he existed. And I can share a story with you in another episode about the impact that had for us as a business down the line as well, once we got that content engine rolling. And I actually spent less and less time doing it each week as a result of knowing what to do. I hope that's really powerful for everybody out there who's kind of trying to get their head around what it is that we do, the impacts and the value of what content that's repurposed can add to you as a business. Every moment within your content, your video, has real power, but most people don't get to see those moments. They see one part of it. They might see the beginning, but every moment can be repurposed and packaged up in a way that gets it in front of your ideal audience and helps them sit up and take notice, even subconsciously, not necessarily on the surface, but subconsciously gives them that understanding of what it is that you do.